Today, we're talking about mastering your website to get more sales. We have some great guest speakers today who will go into how important it is to A, drive traffic to your website, and B, how important the design is of your website, because you can lose a lot of potential customers if your website isn't designed very well. Let me try to move this deck forward. So today, I'm Wes. I'm sure some of you guys have seen some of my webinars before, but today we're also joined by Matt and Curtis from Junk Removal Authority. So I want to pass it off to them real quickly for them to introduce themselves. So Matt, why don't you start? And then Curtis, if you can go ahead afterwards.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Matt Mary. I'm the marketing director here at JRA. I've been at JRA for about 3 years now. And I started as a career in videography. I was a freelance videographer. So I had my own business for about 5 years. And then I became a videographer for JRA, built the video training series, and then grew the marketing department at JRA. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, my name is Curtis Taylor. I'm the director of web and SEO here. Most of my history comes back from graphic design, UX design, web development, web design. A lot of time spent working with companies, optimizing websites, converting traffic, getting users to become customers, and then retargeting those customers as well. So I've been here with JRA for about almost 6 months now, and happy to be here.
And for those of you guys in the audience, Curtis also had a junk removal company. Is that right?
I did, yeah. About March 2020, started the company. We all know that day.
And then Matt, can you talk a little bit about what JRA does, just in case people are not aware?
Sure. Yeah, JRA stands for Junk Removal Authority, and we're a digital marketing company in the junk removal space. So we offer digital marketing services that include building out a website for you, doing your SEO for that website, and doing Google paid ads, pay-per-click. We also have counseling services. So one of the unique things about us versus a different agency is that you could get a digital marketing agency to work for you, but they might not know the junk removal space specifically. Whereas our CEO, Lee Godbold, he is steeped in junk removal. He has his own junk removal company, Junk Doctors, which he's had for over 10 years now. So we not only work with hundreds of junk removal businesses, so we know the industry, but our leader has that experience in junk removal. So if you're somebody who's looking to get into junk removal, or you want to grow your junk removal business, we've got a package for people who maybe they have a business, they want to add another business, or they're just getting started in junk removal. And we call the business package. So that's somebody who, instead of joining a franchise, they're going to get franchise level support, and they come to us. We give them training, the tools, operations manual, video training series. So we're really just kind of a guide and support for junk removal business owners to be able to grow their business.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And JRA, they are a great WorkEase partner. We love them. Obviously, today the content is going to be about the website and how to convert more leads from the website, what you should be doing on the website. But do keep in mind that everything today applies to not only junk removal. So this stuff is really relevant to junk removal, but it's relevant to all service pros. So I'm going to go forward a little bit. Today, we're going to cover some stuff between the differences between mobile and desktop to think about, how to drive your traffic to the website, some key design elements, and then how to manage leads once they convert. We will have a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to save up some questions. We're also happy to answer questions throughout, so I'll be keeping an eye on the comments here if any questions come up, and we can ask those guest speakers. So our first topic here, when we're talking about the difference between the website on the mobile experience and the desktop experience, if you're going to put yourself in the shoes of a potential customer of yours, Curtis, can you walk through why this is so important to think about in aspect to a website?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the experience on a mobile platform, your cell phone's going to be different than a website. Generally, people open up a website on their desktop, sorry, mobile versus desktop. They'll open it on their desktop and maybe they'll let that tab sit open for a long time. Maybe they'll scroll around more, search around more, read more information. The main difference between desktop and mobile, at least from my experience, is when people open your site on mobile, they're more of a transactional type customer where they know what they're looking for. They're looking for something specific, and they move pretty quick to decide whether they want to stick around or not. So I think that's probably the most important point to remember on it.
So just to summarize, you would say the behavior differences between the two experiences, the mobile user, it's much more transactional. So what would you say is something that the audience can take away to consider when they're looking at the differences between mobile and desktop for their website?
I'd say that if you're trying to get somebody into a service, you want to make sure that the mobile version of your site is optimized to have a very quick, clear call to action, very quick, clear value proposition. If you're a service and you're wanting your customers to book your service on your website and they're on their mobile device, then you want to make sure that you have that clear call to action that says book now. You want to get the user into like a booking form, like the Workies booking form, as soon as possible, but with as much clarity as you can offer.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. I think one of the things we see a lot of our users do is they have the book now at like the very top of their website. And if those of you guys that use Workies are not using the booking widget, or you don't have the booking widget optimized, you're missing out on potentially like 10% more jobs. And so please work with your customer success person to make sure that you're optimizing this better if you're not getting that volume. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to chime in. A lot of times, you design your website, websites like this, and on your website for a desktop, you have, your value proposition of what you do. You have subtext, you have a button, you have a nice background photo of somebody smiling. You got some 3 points behind it. You have your navigation. You have all this space to do everything that your mind, can think of, and things that you yourself as a business owner think is going to be important, which we can get into that later. But the biggest thing, another important thing, with mobile, you've got this much space. So what becomes important is really just what you're trying to do, the point you're trying to make to them, and that call to action. So again, optimizing for mobile. Just reiterating, I can't reiterate it enough, cut the fluff, get rid of the stuff that you don't need, get people into the product or into your service as soon as possible with it.
That's great advice. Thanks for that, Curtis. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next topic, which is how to drive traffic. I'm going to pass this over to Matt for a little bit, but can you talk to us a little bit about what do you have to consider when you're building a website, and then messaging wise, what do you need to think about to get into these traffic drivers?
Yeah, so Mark had made a comment there in the comment section where he said sticky floating book now button on the lower side is also massive. And that kind of segues well into what I wanted to talk about, where when you're building your website, you want to consider who your customer is. You need to define who your target demographic is and build it for them. I come from videography. Like I said, I did for 5 years. And one thing that I got was, we want a really cool video. Like, let's make an awesome video. Let's make something that looks cool. And then what I learned along the way was that you have to make a video that is an effective tool. You don't just make a video that looks awesome. You make something that has a purpose. And in the same way, the website has a purpose. So we're talking about user experience or UX today. And you want to think from the start, when a customer encounters you online, when you've got your online presence, that experience starts the first time they see you. And then when they go to your website, it's even more important to make sure you know who that person is and how you are speaking to them. Curtis is going to get more into that later, but in terms of like the words you put, the photos you put, everything on that website has to be catered to them. And a lot of times people will say, I want a website. I think this is cool. I like this. And I want to encourage you to get out of that box where you're thinking, I like this, and consider, what does your customer like? You might not like it. Like Lee doesn't like yard signs. I've heard that over and over. He doesn't like yard signs for junk removal, but they work. So he puts out junk removal yard signs and he gets customers from them. So that's just one thing I want to encourage. In terms of driving leads or driving traffic to your website, there's a number of ways you can do it. And it's important to look at it holistically. So one of the things in marketing that's difficult is to say, where did this lead come from? There's different tools and different ways that you can bring people to your site. And sometimes it's harder to find, they came from here, they came from a yard sign, and there's different strategies that you can utilize to narrow down which one it was. But marketing is holistic. And again, today we're talking about user experience. So you need to think about the brand that you're putting out there. Anytime that somebody sees your brand, whether it is a yard sign, whether it's a post-it note, a door hanger, if it's Google Ads, Facebook, social media posts, a video on YouTube, if you have a vlog, anything, it works cohesively to form an image in your customer's head of your company. You've got a perspective of your company, but what you put out there forms this perspective in your customer's head of your company. So I want to encourage you to consider all that and make a cohesive brand image when you're doing that. We've got paid advertising. At JRA, we recommend, like I said, a holistic approach. So there's paid advertising, which is going to get you jobs quicker. If you use Google Ads, you can use Meta paid ads. And they have a number of features, and I don't want to get too in the weeds about that today, but paid advertising is going to get you leads quicker. It's going to bolster your organic stuff. So if you're just starting out and you want to get leads pretty quickly, you're going to need to utilize Google Ads or Meta ads to get some leads in the door, get people going to your website. You're going to use SEO and use the organic approach. Maybe you're doing content on YouTube or you're posting social media posts. That is a long game. You want to build up SEO over the long haul so that you're generating an engine of organic leads that your paid is supplementing at the beginning. So yeah, that's what I got for that.
And then a follow-up question I have for you is, when you're looking at the different audiences, when it comes to traffic coming from paid advertising versus maybe they just saw you organically, what are the differences between the audiences?
An organic and a paid audience?
Yeah, just like and especially when it comes to the design, what do you have to think about in the different audiences?
Sure. It can be related to, like, Curtis was talking earlier, where somebody on mobile is very action oriented. They're likely going to book, like they're ready to take action. If they're on desktop, they might be sitting at their computer and they're doing research. So you have to think about what you're saying to them, the information they might be looking for, and what information is going to get them to convert, as well as how you design the page. So like for us, for example, we've got the business package, like I mentioned earlier, where somebody who's looking for a junk removal franchise might be doing some research about franchises. So we would use a paid ad to target people who are looking for junk removal franchises. And then they might click on our page as the franchise alternative, come to our page and see, oh, this is what I would get in that. So there's just more information. This is what the package includes. We might show some testimonials and different stuff. So you have a little bit more room to provide extra value, and it's a little bit less action oriented. With paid, you want to make sure that the stuff that you're putting in your Google Ads, the ad copy, relates to what you get when you go to the page. So if you've got a paid ad that says franchise alternative, when they click that ad, it's important for the customer journey, for getting them to convert, but it's also important for Google and how much your ads are going to cost. I'm not a paid ads expert, so I don't want to pretend to be, but it is important for things like the quality score on Google Ads that those things match, so that when they go to the page, they're not complete. It's like clickbait. You don't want to provide clickbait. You want to provide a solution. When somebody has a need and they go to the internet, they go to their phone or their computer, you want to show them that your company solves that need. So you have to be very clear and make sure that when they pay for the click, the place they land has the information that matches what you got them to click with. In organic, I would say you just have a little bit more flexibility. Like a lot of times, if you're doing a social media post, it might just be brand awareness. So you could just be talking about your company and saying, this is what we're about. Maybe this is a job we did. You can show some before and after photos. You're getting your brand out there, and it's a less, I would say, less action oriented thing. Whereas a paid ad, you're paying money to get them to click to your website. So it has to be much more concise and purpose driven.
Yeah, I think adding on to what Matt's saying, I'm glad you brought up social. It's very relevant. It's socials. Your audience on social is going to. He's spot on with it being more of a brand awareness type campaign. One of the differences that we see between paid advertising and organic traffic is your organic traffic converts at a much lower rate. So organic traffic generally will convert. I mean, if you can get 10% conversion off of organic traffic, I mean, you're hitting home runs. Whereas 10% off of paid traffic, I would look to boost that up, double it, triple it, just because of the ability that you have with paid advertising through Google to target specific clients or customers and go after people more specifically. So definitely consider your traffic when you're building out your website and how you plan. Or if you got a big budget for paid advertising, then you can be more specific. If you're going to rely more on social and organic traffic, then you're going to have to just have a little bit different design elements. You have some different design elements on your site to help bring people into your product.
Awesome. I see some comments. Sarah, great information. I was always confused between the paid and organic differences. We appreciate that feedback, Sarah. I think if you guys don't have anything else, I want to move on to the next topic, but let's do it.
I do want to say one thing
go ahead.
about organic before we get into the web design is the thing that we see that business owners in any industry, any home service industry, sometimes neglect is the Google business profile, which used to be Google My Business. If you're not soliciting reviews on the job and getting if somebody is stoked with the job that you did, they're very excited, you did a great job, you need to be asking them for a Google review, because people, when they go online, they're going to get to your website, but a lot of times what they do is they just search for HVAC business, plumber, junk removal, whatever it is, and then they'll see the Google business profile and they'll look at the reviews, and they might make a split decision right there to say, I'm going to check this website out. They're going to click the website on the Google business profile, or they might say, you know what, they have terrible reviews, or they have 3 reviews. So you could put all the effort in the world into your website and to paid ads and stuff, but if you don't bolster it with that free organic Google business profile, then you're missing out.
That is a really, really good point, Matt, on the reviews piece. We've done some content at Workies about reviews and how important they are. I definitely think that every job you guys do, you should always be asking for a review. And I mean, the nice thing about Workies is we have our automation center where you can actually, once the job is complete, send an automated personalized text message or email where you ask for these Google reviews. And we can also get as granular into, like, if you have a client that you had a bad experience with and you want to make sure that the automation center does not ask them for a review, you can filter that out with our automation center so it does not ask for bad reviews. But I think this is the reviews piece is something that you can definitely leverage to bolster your organic traffic. We had a question come in from Sarah here. Does organic and direct traffic affect paid advertising?
Does organic and what traffic?
Direct traffic.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't affect the paid advertising. Well,
Okay.
no, it doesn't. Not that I can. I was wondering if it would affect placement, but I was thinking, no, it doesn't.
Okay. And I think that goes back to the conversation about when you're doing paid advertising, you have to be really direct about what you're offering when they get to the landing page.
Correct.
So
that's a good question. I'm wondering, she said, does organic and direct traffic affect paid advertising? maybe not the traffic, but the efforts, like we mentioned before, about what you build out on your website. I mean, that definitely affects the quality score on Google Ads. And then if people see that they're getting what they need when they go to the website, if Google's seeing that, but I'm not sure about if it actually affects.
No, I mean, you have a point, Matt, which is why I was kind of hesitating and stuttering a little bit. It's, I mean, your page performance is graded by Google. So yes, or traffic can affect in a very small way. I mean, way, kind of way down the line type of thing. But to the point that you would notice it, or the average person would probably see a difference with it, probably not. Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting some questions on Google Ads, and the second question we just got on Meta compared to Google. I think we can maybe save that one towards the end.
Okay.
But I think the question, are you seeing a lot of bot traffic, wasted clicks on Google Ads recently? I think that's actually a good segue into website design, because we're going to get a little into like testing your website, and I think Curtis may be able to talk a little bit about the user testing experience. So I'm gonna let's get into the website design, and we'll circle back on these questions in a little bit if we don't answer them directly, but we'll try our best to answer them on this next slide. So when we're talking about website design, I want to get Curtis to talk about, now that we've had the conversation about getting traffic to your website, what should you be looking for on the design aspect? And can you talk a little bit about just why design is so important?
Yeah. I mean, there's 4 main parts of UX design, and I'm not really going to go into them. I just wanted to mention them, usability, desirability, adoptability, and value. The one that I'm going to mention or just really briefly chat about is usability. The user experience, which we call UX, is really important. To give you guys an idea, recently we worked on a project, and we went in and took 8 weeks. We took a long time. We took our time. We tested every little change that we made, right? We made sure that we had the tracking on right. And every little single change that we made, we did a full, measurement of analytics and heat maps and all that stuff. By the time we're done with 8 weeks, I mean, the changes we made were so minimal, it wouldn't look like much to anybody, but we increased the booking for the client 400%. So UX or usability design, UX design, it's really important. So generally speaking, how does that apply to the average business, the average business trying to put out a website and convert more traffic? You have two main parts on your website that I like to focus on. That's your value proposition and your call to action. On a desktop, you can have multiple call to actions. It's okay to have a button up here and a button in your banner, and then maybe a button down here. Your value proposition is probably going to have some subtext to it. So maybe it's, we're the best plumbers in the state of Texas. And then underneath that, it's, check out our services and And then there's a book now and a contact us. The UX process, and this goes back to that mobile versus desktop. On the mobile version, you're going to ditch some of that information. You're going to ditch one of those call to actions. And the reason you're going to ditch some of this stuff is through the process of UX design, you're going to get rid of competing elements on the website. I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but when you get to the mobile version, having multiple call to actions that are saying the same thing on screen are ultimately going to make it confusing for the customer. It may not seem like it would. You may really think you want to have things like contact us, get a quote, book now. Like but I'm giving my customer all these options. But in all reality, they don't want to deal with options. They want to be told what to do. They want to be given the answer. They want to be told, here, book now, go to this form, and we'll come out and we'll give you the service. So the UX design process has a lot to do with thinking through these types of things, thinking through how you're presenting your service, what you're asking your customer to do. There's, once a customer starts into your process and starts, clicking through your website, we have to think about, or further down the process, right? The UX, the user journey, and the rest of that user experience that they're gonna go through. So when they click book now, the best thing in the world that we can do is we can get them right into a booking form. I mean, like we have ours set up so that when people click book now, it jumps right into selecting their date on the Workies form. So getting your customers through that process with decent elements or decent design elements that aren't going to be too distracting or pull them in too many different directions is probably my number one priority when I'm designing a website.
And then a follow-up question I have on the call to action is like, how important is it to have a call to action on a booking widget, like getting someone to go book your services? And then separately, like I know a lot of people have a call to action of call me, like phone number. Like what, I don't know if you know like the differences between the two, and
of course. Yeah, it's I like to say it's based off your demographic, who your audience is. Every demographic is different in some way. I know as a business owner, one of my favorite things to do is to wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. and see 4 jobs booked on my website using my booking form. I mean, that's huge, but throughout the day, if my phone doesn't ring while I'm awake, then I go home scratching my head. So I like both. Giving users the option is definitely good. And a call now feature along with a book now feature, those don't compete, because you're talking about 2 different customers. One customer is that customer like myself. Like, I don't want to talk to somebody. I want to click the button. I want to put my information in as fast as possible. And if you make me wait 10 seconds for your button to respond to my tap, I'm out of there, and, but then you have others who they want to talk to somebody, or maybe they're not clear on what your services are. So having that phone number makes it easier. And again, going back to UX, you want to give people options, yes, but you also want to make it easy. So you want to make sure that phone number, is front and ready. While in your navigation, you have things like ask us questions, or, you've done the research with your demographic to know who your customer is and the types of topics that'll get brought up. If I can just go back to the question on the bots, if you don't mind for a quick second. It's an interesting question. It's a really good question. I actually worked with a company that made 100% of its income from traffic on their website, right? So all their income was from traffic, and they made it from all the advertising through their Google campaigns and affiliate marketing. So I was with that company when there was a big crackdown on bot traffic. And so I watched a significant amount. I watched basically Google's efforts to get rid of bot traffic for things like their advertisers, things like if you're doing paid advertising, so that you yourself don't have to worry about, you're spending $2,000 a month on advertising, but how much of that is fake traffic? It was way, way, way more of a concern 12 plus years ago. And I'm not saying it's not a concern now, but I'm saying they have a much, much better handle on it. In addition to that, like, I know our paid advertising team takes care to jump into the accounts, and they make sure that they're watching the accounts and how they're acting. So if they start seeing things that look fake or don't look right, they jump in there and can make the edits that they need to, or change the ad. So
thanks for getting to that question.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to cover on this piece? I know we wanted to touch on what it means to not be deceived, like that whole idea, but I don't know if we want to wait for the next topic to do that.
Can you cover that one more time? What do you mean be deceived?
Yeah. We'll wait to the next topic, because I think it's more relevant to that. Okay, so if there's nothing else we want to mention on this slide for design, let's move on to.
Sorry. There's one other thing I was going to mention, is that another huge part of spending time designing your website. I mean, if you guys are managing your own website, you have a Wix website or a WordPress site, make sure you put analytics on it. Make sure that you have tracking on it. So many times we launch a site and we just, we get 5 jobs and all of a sudden we're like, yes, it's working. And then we go a week without a job, or we go 2 weeks without a call, or a day without a call, whatever it is. Everybody's different, but make sure you have analytics. That way, as you continue to change things on your website, you can measure the differences. You may change something. You may put a new background photo thinking, man, this is great. It shows my truck and this and that. You put the photo up and all of a sudden your bookings drop 20%. I mean, I see it all the time. So make sure that you're tracking, make sure that you're looking at your data. All of a sudden business slows way down. You can jump into your analytics and see what the problem is. We had a client who, he thought, man, my website's not doing anything for me. And he was struggling. And he could have sworn that the slowdown in his business was because the website wasn't working. And so we jumped into the analytics and we found his website was working. I mean, he was actually getting more traffic. He was moving things along more. He was losing, the business was getting lost in a different area. So make sure that you have your analytics set up and that you're tracking it, and you're watching those things.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, when I had the videography business, I made my own site like a lot of people do. You start a business and you think, how can you cut costs? How can you do things yourself? So I made a Wix site. I did a Squarespace site, and I liked Wix better. But when I made the site, I finished it and I thought, this looks awesome. And I didn't know at that time what I know now, which is you can make an awesome looking site, but if you're not doing what Curtis is saying, if you're not going in and you're not testing it, you're not using analytics, you're not using tools that show how people are interacting with your site and what they're clicking on and when they're leaving and that kind of stuff, you can make an awesome site, but you're missing out on people. In the same way that you said, if you don't have an online booking thing with Workies on your site, then you're missing out on 10% of people. I know that I missed out on a lot of customers. When somebody comes to your site, one of the tendencies is to want to, like if you're building it yourself, just put all the information they would need to know right there on the site. And like Curtis said, that can be a distraction, and people are hardwired. One of the things I learned from Donald Miller's Story Brand book is that people are hardwired against burning calories. Their brain does not want to burn calories. So if you go to somebody's site and you have to read a whole bunch of stuff, there's like 10 call to actions, there's multiple phone numbers, their brain is going to want to go away from that. They're not going to be guided to the action that you want them to take. So the best place to start is simplicity, understanding your customer, designing around that customer and the action you want them to take, and then utilizing the tools like Curtis is talking about of evaluating your website and tweaking it. One of the sites that we were looking at before had a link to residential, and Curtis asked me like, oh, what do you think of this site? And I was like, well, I don't think it needs residential, man. Like, who's going to click residential? And then Curtis was like, well, if you look at the Hotjar results here, residential is the most clicked link on this site. If I would have just said, you know what, I trust my gut, I made a good decision, let's get rid of residential, I would have cut off a ton of traffic that people are interested in. And so when you sit there and you think, I made this site, it looks awesome, and you neglect to test it, then you're missing out on even more business.
Definitely.
That's a really good point. And I think as we move into our final topic of how to manage website leads, there's like the foundational stuff, which we'll get into, but then there's also what to look at from the design aspect. So before I get into this, I'm going to go ahead and release a poll for you guys. We're just asking, have you guys in the audience done user experience testing on your website? Yes or no? And then we can get into that in a little bit. But I think this is a good, when we're talking about how to manage leads from the website, the whole idea is you want them to convert to paying jobs, right?
That's right.
So my main question here, I have a few questions for you guys, but Curtis, I know you were a former junk removal business owner, but
yeah.
So when you got leads, like what were the most important things to actually converting these to paid jobs?
So my leads actually were booked jobs. I brought people, and I found that when I gave people the option just to straight book, a job, that's when I got my highest conversion. I got my highest conversion just straight from my website. Whereas when I did have a contact form though. And so I guess, yeah. So if I would get a lead, I mean, the first thing I needed to do was to be responsive and respond to them right away. And when I mean right away, I mean, you got to, at least for my industry, I had about an hour before they found somebody else. So I had to be responsive. I had to contact them right away. I needed to be as professional as possible, like it says on the slide. But most of all, I needed to be organized. When I call people, call them, speak to them by their name and know what their information was that they put in. And that way I can give them as, accurate and as honest of a quote as I could, as quickly as possible.
And then now to get into like the user experience when it comes to managing leads. So the poll question, I mean, so far we have 24 people that said they've never done user experience testing on their website, 25 people now, and 3 people say they have. So, I mean, can you talk about like what people should be doing and like what kind of data they should be looking at and like what are some tests they can do just to see how to get some of these traffic from their website to create these calls and create these booking now?
Yeah.
So,
It's look, UX testing can, like, if you start Googling it, you're going to get 12 dozen websites about, UX tools and design tools and testing tools. And really what it comes down to is if I could simplify it, again, focus on your value proposition, your call to action, and then reduce the number of distractions, distractions being things like an unattractive background photo, too many or competing or excessive call to actions. You also, I mean, we have things like typography and color palette, but really most people who are managing their own website, your main focus is going to be on what your value prop is, what your call to action is. And that's just in that main banner. What are you initially saying? People open your website, that's what they see. They don't see your logo first, they see that first. And then they go up to your logo and then their eyes go down the left and then it goes over. It's kind of like an F shape, if you can imagine that. That's how people read websites. So, first things first, call to action is clear and friendly. If you have supporting subtext, 1 sentence, 2 if you must, but try to keep it to 1 sentence. And then a clear call to action, book now, call now, inquire now, or schedule now, or whatever, your service or product is. But when I say 400%, we literally, just last month increased, our clients' bookings by 400% by changing those 2 things. We removed excessive call to actions. We removed get a quote, and we made the value proposition and call to action very simple and clear. So, and think about the messaging. I mean, thinking about what you're saying. So yeah, you can clarify it, but if you have the wrong message, that could affect it too. So if you're trying to get more residential, let's say junk removal jobs, but you're presenting yourself as a big commercial hauler, then you're not going to get those residential jobs. So think about that. Think about who you're going after. And again, set up your tracking, track it. And it's almost, I mean, UX testing and design is almost a guaranteed way to get more traffic. If you've never ever thought about it or done anything with it, you just built a website, launched, and now you're waiting for business. UX testing is that next step that 9 out of 10 businesses don't do. And that's where you increase your profits and your conversions.
That's awesome. We got a comment from Mark about syncing your booking form to your live schedule. I could not agree with you more. In Workies, we have a few options to do this. We have the online booking tool, which is synced to your live schedule. And you also have the ability to do a contact us form. that is not synced to your live schedule. I think most of our customers use the booking form just because it's way easier to convert these leads, and it adds a more friction when you don't have your live schedule synced. We also see some pros who like to have not their live schedule, and they like to just have it say always available, because some of our pros like to just get the lead in their system and then make a call regardless of whether or not they're available at that time, because they see value in just getting a conversion from their website. So I mean, we see it either way. And then we got another question. I mean, we're almost at the questions part, so we'll get into that in a second. But is there anything else, Matt or Curtis, you want to add on like managing website leads before we get into questions?
Yeah, I wanted to add. I'm going to toot Worky's horn for a second. When you're booking a home service business and you've booked it, or maybe you're thinking about booking it or whatever, the follow-up and the communication is important. It's not done once they book. Like if they book online, you need to consider how you communicate. If you use the tools that say like, hey, we're 2 hours out, or this is the window, or whatever, that communication, people are going to give you more forgiveness about that communication. If you are actually telling them, hey, sorry, it's an hour later, rather than if you just show up late. And that is part of the image that people think of when they think of your business. Once they're done, like another way to get people to your website is referrals. So if you've got a happy customer, you've communicated really well with them, you've gone, I mean, everyone thinks about the Chick-fil-A level of service. That extra level of service is going to cause somebody to be an advocate for your business, which will then get another person by word of mouth that you didn't have to pay for. You just had to do a good job. So if you have that customer service level, which comes from that clear communication, then it's a whole nother channel of lead gen that you've got.
Could not agree more. Okay, so I think today, like in conclusion, definitely look at your website design, look at the data associated with your website to see what it's doing and how many bookings you're getting. And then if there's anything else, either Curtis or Matt, you guys want to add here just in summary today, before we get into the questions, now is the time. I know one of the things, Matt, you mentioned earlier before we hopped on was how important it is to have simplicity in your website. So if there's anything you want to cover on that, now is a good time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing that I wanted people to understand, was that the tendency, and then same thing with videos or on your website or on social media posts, any marketing collateral that you make, the tendency is to put everything out there. And if you do a paid ad or something, like, people have short attention spans. So you want to think, why does this matter? Like anytime we make a video, my team will tell you that I'll say, oh, that looks cool, but why does it matter? What's the angle? I just said it today, and I want people to get that. It's like, if you're making social media posts for yourself, if you're writing blogs, if you're writing the content for your website, like Curtis said, like, you can make stuff that's close to the mark, but you want to hit the mark by thinking, why does this matter? Does the stuff that I'm saying here, is it where I want it? Is this exactly what I want it to be? So simplicity, but also, do people care? Why would somebody care about this?
Great. All right, we're in a Q&A part. I see we got one question in the question section. Is it better to accept bookings even if they're not signed up, like booking as a guest, or better to require them to sign up before any bookings? I don't know if I understand that question fully. I don't know if Curtis or Matt, you want to take a stab at it, but I'm assuming, like, when you say signed up, is that like pay a deposit, or is that?
I mean, it sounds like it's let me guess, the person asking could type in the answer, but
I see Wilfred, you're typing in there. So
yeah, I mean, you look, if you're collecting somebody's information to book that, or for them to book your service, that is a sign up. Yeah, I mean, putting something at the end of the form that they're using to book, a question that says, I agree to terms and conditions, or By clicking here, I agree to be signed up for this, as a, for this service or whatever it is a simple part. But I mean, I'm a fan of getting straight to the booking, getting people in. So I think that's one of the things I do like about how the Workies form integrates with our customers, our customers for our clients is when they click book now, the next thing a customer's thinking is well, I just clicked book now, let me book it. Don't make me do something else. Again, that's that UX part, right? We're making people work for stuff, or we want to keep people, prevent people from having to work. But they click book now, the next thing they're going to want to do is put in the date. They want to choose their date. They want to get their information there. They want to get out. So for me, my personal opinion, I say let them fill out the form. However, this is again where UX testing plays a part, and it depends what your end result is, what's your end goal.
Okay, awesome. Another question came through. This one I think is good for you, Curtis. For website design, what colors stand out the most, and what are the most appealing? If that's relevant for websites.
No, it's as relevant as it is not. So I was with Entrepreneur Magazine for a while, and we were basically redesigning the whole site and looking at all the analytics, talking about, few million visitors a day. So just enormous amounts of traffic. And we're looking at our article pages, and there was this giant red button at the bottom of it that said read next article. And it just looked off. It looked odd. It didn't feel right to me. And so I went to a designer and I said, hey, I think we need to change this. Why don't we look at something within, the color palette of the site? And he's like, no, red converts. Everybody clicks red. UX testing results for years say red works. And I said, I don't think so, but maybe you're right. So let's do an A/B test. So we did an A/B test. We'll come to find out we increased, conversion from people clicking that button by changing it to blue. So is there a best color scheme? I think it's based off your brand. You want you want your website to be cohesive. You want the design to make sense. You want I was working on a site this morning on some UX stuff, and the color of the logo was mostly brown, right? It was a bulldog. And so naturally, I think the designer thought, well, let's make the button brown. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of contrast there. It didn't really pull the eye to it. So I had to work to see it. I had to really try to make it work for me as a customer, from that perspective. So I went the opposite. So let's make it yellow. Make it yellow. Instantly now you don't even have to read the button before you know exactly what it is. And I think that's part of the process. So there's no wrong or right answer to what color. I recommend you find a color palette that works with your brand. Use a contrasting color in your banner, which is that main spot when website loads. The button color that you use there should only be used there and in the header, in my opinion. All the buttons and call to actions below are a different color. And we could do a whole nother, show or webinar on that, but yeah, I could go on forever too, but.
No, that's a good story. Spencer, I see you just messaged. I got here kind of late. We're at the end, unfortunately, but if you want, this recording is going to be available like pretty much within probably usually 20 seconds of it ending. Right when I end the recording, it should take maybe 20 seconds, and then you can use the same link and watch the recording. So it's there. But we did get a question from him. We have recently been looking into investing in SEO. Is this something that will make you or break you in today's world of the internet?
It depends on your approach. If you're also doing paid advertising, and you have a good paid advertising campaign, you can do very well with the business with very little SEO efforts. SEO can make your business, but it doesn't have to kill your business if it doesn't work. I'm kind of glad this got brought up because it's one of those things where everybody knows Google changes their algorithm and SEO is this huge unknown topic. Well, it's not as unknown as it used to be. One of the things Google has been very vocal about for the last couple of years has been search intent and user experience. So they're repeatedly preaching to build your website based off of your customer search intent. And search intent, there's 4 of them. There's informational, navigational, transactional, and commercial. I won't go into all of them, but to give you an idea, transactional user intent, which Google cares very much about, those are people who search with the intent of finding a website to make a transaction. Commercials, and probably I think the next important one, and those are people who are searching Google with with the intent to make a transaction, but they just want a few pieces of information first. And when you think about content and your SEO from that perspective, you will write your content different rather than just, oh, I got a website, I'm going to write a bunch of content. This is who we are. This is what we do. No, your customer has search intent and Google cares what that is. The other thing Google cares about very much, very, very much is user experience. If people come to your website, they don't see what they like, so they go back to search results, then they click on somebody else. Google sees that. That counts against you. That if that happens excessively or whatever, it knocks you down. But if people come to your website, they see what they like, they click on it, and then again, and I'm just using it as a great example, they click book now, and the next thing they see is the date that they want to choose on that form, like with what Workies provides. Then that contributes greatly to your SEO and can benefit you. So kind of a long answer for the question, but will SEO make or break you? I mean, it definitely can help. It will help, but paid advertising, paid campaigns can do very well for you as well.
Awesome. I know we're a little bit over time. We are getting a decent amount of questions in the chat. I don't know if this is something you guys can answer about the advertising piece on the 40 to 50 landing pages per county that they're in. If not, maybe this could be something that JRA reaches out to Mason about afterwards.
I'm trying to find it.
It's a little bit up. It's, if I intend to have a campaign with heavy advertising, is it unreasonable to have 40 to 50 landing pages per county we are in?
No, I don't think it's unreasonable. I actually don't see it. Okay.
And then the rest of that, is it too much work for the efforts, or should we narrow our targeting down?
I mean, it's a hard question to answer. I don't think it's too much. You can narrow it down. I just think you have to have enough content. One of the things Google looks at is text to HTML ratio. So how much content is on the page versus how much code is on the back end of the website. If you have, an insane amount of code and JavaScript and this and that, but you have 2 paragraphs on a page, Google's like, there's something wrong there. So I think you just have to make sure you have enough content to support it. I think you'd be fine.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to keep this chat open for a bit after this. I can stay behind and answer any other questions that come up, but we're a little bit over time. So I want to thank everyone for joining. And then I want to pass it off to Matt and Curtis. If you guys have something special about JRA you wanted to talk about, or just say thank you, now is a good time. But I really appreciate you guys joining today and everyone for listening and asking some great questions.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on. We love partnering with Workies. It's a great value for our customers. And like Curtis said, the book now form on the website is amazing. And a lot of people here might be interested. We have a webinar on September 20th. That's a week from today. It's September 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's how to pick a digital marketing agency. So it will have things that are applicable to different industries. Obviously, it's going to have things about junk removal, but it'll have questions you might want to consider when you're looking at an agency. If you're moving from DIY to hiring somebody, or if you're with somebody and you're not quite sure that they're doing a good job, it'll have some questions you can ask about how to find a good agency. So we're going to email that link out so people don't have to worry about it right now, but we'll email that link out again. It's next Wednesday, September 20th at 7 p.m. But yeah, Wes, thank you so much for having us on. We love working with Workies.
Awesome. We love you guys too, and it's always a pleasure to do these webinars with you guys. I'm going to stay on in the chat for anyone that has more questions and try to get them answered for you. But you can see the recording by using this link and saving it. We also have a webinar library on our website that we load them up on. So that's a good place to see former webinars. We have a lot of good content there. But again, Matt, Curtis, thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone got some great content out of today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and end this. And like I said, I'll be in the comments for a bit, but thank you all.
Cool. Thanks, Wes.